My name is Hannah Collins. I'm 40 years old. 20 years ago, my husband died in a plane crash. That's what I believed. That's what I mourned. That's what I built my entire life around. Last Friday, my daughter walked through that door shaking and said 4 words that destroyed everything. Mom. I met Dad. And the photo she showed me next didn't just shock me. It proved that the man I spent 20 years grieving had been alive the entire time. That night 20 years ago was supposed to be the happiest of my life. I was in a hospital bed, waiting, watching my phone. My husband was on a business trip but had been calling all day. "I'll be back before she arrives," he promised. I believed him completely. Instead of his voice, I got an unknown number. Something told me not to answer. I answered anyway. "Ma'am, we're calling regarding your husband. There's been an accident. The plane crashed. No survivors. He was gone." And before I could even process it, the labor pains started. I was losing my husband and bringing my daughter into the world in the exact same moment. The cruelest possible timing, the kind that marks you permanently. When it was finally over, they placed her in my arms. So small, so perfect, and I just stared at her with tears still falling, not knowing whether to smile or shatter. They never found his body. Too much fire, too much damage. Nothing left. That detail gave me a foolish, tiny hope for a while. Maybe there was a mistake, maybe somehow. But hope doesn't survive 20 years of silence. I had a newborn and no one else, so I did what I had to do. I raised her alone. Sleepless nights, small jobs, every dollar stretched. I never bought anything for myself for years. Her school fees always came first. Her needs always came first. Always. Once she asked me why I never bought new dresses like other moms. I smiled and told her I already had everything I needed. She had his eyes. Every time she smiled, it felt like he was still there in some small way. That was enough to keep going. She grew up, started college. Smart, kind, stronger than I ever was, and in all those years I told her only the simple truth. Your father died in a plane crash before you were born. For 20 years, that truth never changed. Until last Friday. It was a normal afternoon when I heard the front door open. She walked in, and something was immediately wrong. Not scared. Not sad, just completely hollowed out, like someone who had seen something their brain was still refusing to accept. "Mom." Her voice wasn't right. "What happened?" She didn't answer. She walked closer, holding her phone with both hands like it might break. "Today I met someone." "Who?" She looked straight at me and said it quietly. "I met my dad." My brain simply stopped. Like a power cut. Everything went dark and silent inside me at once. "What?" I whispered. She held out her phone. The moment I saw that photo, my hands went numb. That face. I had loved that face. I had mourned that face for 20 years. I had told myself every day that face was gone forever. And there he was. Alive, older. Standing in front of a camera like he had simply stepped out for a few minutes and come back. "That's not possible," I said. My voice barely came out. "That's him, Mom. I talked to him. He knew things about you. About me." "No." I shook my head. "Your father died. I was there. I lived through it." But what if it wasn't true? That question hit somewhere I hadn't let anything reach in 20 years. For 1 second, something cracked open inside me. Some part of me that never fully healed. But I shut it down immediately. "Someone is lying to you," I said firmly. She didn't argue. She just looked at me quietly and said the thing that froze me completely. "He asked to meet you. He said you wouldn't believe it unless you saw him yourself." A pause. "He said you deserve answers." Answers. That word stayed in the air between us like smoke. Part of me wanted to shut this down, protect everything we had built. protect us. But that quieter, deeper part needed the truth more than it needed protection. Fine, I said. He comes here. We talk. That's it. The house felt different that evening. Heavier. Like the walls themselves were holding their breath. I sat in the living room while 20 years of buried memories started rising against my will. His voice, his laugh, the way he looked at me like I was the only person in every room we ever shared. A knock at the door. My heart stopped. My daughter looked at me. I nodded once. She opened it, and he walked in. Time stopped. He looked older. Lines I didn't recognize, a different weight in how he carried himself. But it was him. Completely, undeniably him. 20 years of grief hit me in 1 second. Every night I cried alone. Every morning I woke up and chose to keep going anyway. Every sacrifice made for a daughter whose father I thought was gone forever. All of it. At once. I forced myself to stay still. Hannah, he said softly, my name, after 20 years, like nothing had happened. I know you don't believe me, he said. You're right, I replied. I don't. Then he began his story. After the crash he survived, he said. Badly injured. Lost somewhere he couldn't clearly remember. Lost his memory. No documents, no identification, no way to prove who he was. It took years for pieces to come back. Small memories, faces, feelings. And then I remembered you, he said. I tried to find you. But without documents, it wasn't easy. His voice was steady, controlled. Every word precisely placed. My daughter was already tearing up. Everything he said sounded possible, just believable enough. That was exactly the problem. How convenient, I said. Both of them looked at me. 20 years. No memory, no contact, no single sign of life. And suddenly now you remember everything and you're standing in my living room. I understand why you feel that way. No, I said. You don't. I stepped closer. Not once in 20 years did you try to reach anyone. Not a call. Not a letter. Not anything. I couldn't, I repeated slowly. Or didn't. He had no answer. And that's when the instinct hit. The kind that doesn't come from logic, the kind that lives in your chest and never lies. Something in his eyes didn't match his words. Something was missing from this story. Something that hadn't been said yet. I just didn't know what it was. Then came a knock at the door. All three of us turned. My daughter frowned. Were you expecting someone? No, I said. The knock came again. Louder this time. I walked toward it slowly, and I felt it with every step, that specific weight of something about to change everything. Again. I opened the door. A woman was standing there. She looked at me first, then her eyes moved past me directly to him. And her expression changed in a way I will never forget. Not surprise. Not confusion. The look of someone who had been carrying something for a long time and had finally decided to put it down. Her voice was cold and clear and impossible to ignore. You didn't tell them the truth, did you? Not a question. A statement. Said by someone who already knew the answer. The room went completely still. I turned slowly, looking from her to him. Everything he had built so carefully in the last hour, the calm, the control, the perfectly rehearsed story, it was gone from his face. All of it. Gone. What is she talking about? My daughter's voice was trembling now. No one answered. The woman stepped inside, eyes locked on him. Did you tell them the truth? He looked at her. You shouldn't be here, he said quietly. Not denial, not confusion, just avoidance. The first honest thing he had said all evening. Answer her, I said. The woman turned to me. Something in her eyes that looked like hesitation. Then she said it. He's lying. The words didn't land loudly. They settled. Slowly. Completely. Like a door closing on everything I had believed. He didn't lose his memory, she continued. He didn't forget anything. He knew exactly who he was the entire time. My daughter stepped back. What? He lived a completely normal life. He worked, he traveled, he laughed, each word sharper than the last. And he married me. That was the moment. Not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet, complete collapse of 20 years of a story I had been living inside. I didn't know about you, she added, softer now. I didn't know he had a wife, a child on the way. My daughter was shaking her head. No, that can't be true. You're lying. I wish I was. The woman looked at him one last time. The plane crash wasn't something that trapped him, she said. It was something he used. He saw an opportunity to disappear, to start over without responsibility, without you, without her. My fingers tightened. And for 20 years, while you were here struggling alone, raising your daughter with nothing but a memory of a man you thought was dead. She paused. He was living a completely different life. Silence. Then she looked directly at him. Tell them why you're really here. He looked at me. Then at our daughter. And for the first time I saw clearly what was actually in his eyes. Not regret. Not guilt. Not love. Need. I saw your pictures, he said slowly. Both of you. On social media a few weeks ago. Our daughter went completely still. I didn't know she looked like this, he continued, voice dropping. I couldn't have a child, not with her. He didn't even look at the woman beside him. So you came back, I said slowly. To take her. He didn't deny it. Something inside me broke and ignited at the same moment. I stepped forward and slapped him across the face. The sound filled the room. He didn't move. Didn't look up. You made me a widow for 20 years, I said, voice shaking but strong. You made me struggle alone. Grieve alone. Raise our daughter alone with nothing but the memory of a man I thought loved us. I stepped closer. And you come back now. Not for me. Not for her. For what you need. He lifted his eyes to our daughter. One last attempt. The look of a man who still believed he had something left to bargain with. I'm your father, he said softly. I made mistakes, but I'm here now. That has to mean something. Our daughter looked at him for a long, quiet moment. When she spoke, her voice was completely steady, completely cold, completely done. Please don't insult that word. He flinched. She took one step back, not in anger, in the specific, devastating way of someone who has already closed a door and simply walked away from it. I would have been happier, she said quietly, if you had really died that day. That destroyed him. Completely. Finally. No words left, no excuses, no plan. Just a man standing in the wreckage of every choice he ever made. The other woman looked at him one last time. You didn't just betray them, she said quietly. You betrayed me too. You told me you had no past, no family. And I believed you. Her voice cracked slightly. I can't stay with a man who abandoned his own child. She stepped away from him, and just like that, the last piece of his life was gone. I walked to the door and opened it. Get out. No anger in my voice. No tears, just the quiet, final authority of a woman who had already survived the worst version of this man and was simply closing the chapter. He looked at me one last time, then at our daughter, searching for anything. There was nothing left for him here. He walked out. The woman followed. Not beside him, just two strangers leaving in the same direction. The door closed. And this time the silence felt different. Not the silence of loss. The silence of something finally finished. I turned around. My daughter walked straight into my arms without a single word. I held her as tightly as I have ever held anything in my life. Not from fear. Not from pain. Because I finally understood something I had always known but never needed to say out loud. She had asked me once why I never bought new dresses. I had smiled and said I already had everything I needed. I meant it then. I mean it now. He left thinking he was escaping something. What he actually left behind was the only thing in his life that was ever real. Some people don't deserve a second chance. Not because we won't forgive them, but because the life they abandoned while they were gone became something far greater than anything they could have offered by staying. We were not what he left behind. We were what survived him. If this story stayed with you, subscribe and drop a comment. Tell me one thing. When she opened that door and saw him standing there after 20 years, what would you have done?